Hello, Manchester, and welcome to another edition of Girard at Large. I am your overcrowded host tonight, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. As you know, you can find us online at girardatlarge.com, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, also at Girard at Large, where we encourage you to like us and to follow us. Why? Well, we just keep dropping bombshells on the city of Manchester, and if you're not paying attention to those sites, you're missing out what's happening. What's the latest? It's called Lice, Mice, and Cockroaches, all at Hillside. As Hillside goes from bad to worse, pretty soon they're going to announce the 7 plagues of the Egyptians if things keep up the way they're going. You hear some giggling in the background, and that's because I'm really funny. But we have a number of guests here tonight, and as luck would have it, they're all running for the school board. So we are going to spend some time getting to know Mark Millet, who is running for school board in Ward 5. Melodye McCusker, who is running for school board in Ward 8. Did I say that right? McCusker.
Malinda McCusker.
Malinda McCusker in Ward 8. Apologies. Cali Rojas, who is running for the school board in Ward 3. And Melodye Smith, who is... B, do you have that? Do you still have that that campaign commercial for Sean Parr that I gave you last week, by any chance? All right. So when you find it, let us know. But Melodye Smith is running for school board in Ward 2, my neighborhood, and so we are going to be talking about schools tonight. I'm going to do it in a little bit of a different way than I've done in the last couple of shows, because I'm going to blend in what's happening at the school board with with this interview, because frankly, some of the stuff happening in our schools and at the school board right now I think is worthy of discussion. And why exclude the candidates from the conversation when there are questions that they should be asked? Not that I excluded anybody else from the conversation, but with the number of folks we have tonight and the topics that are on deck, I think it's time we bring it in. So with that, I'm going to let me know when you have the Sean Parr stuff, because we will interrupt our live broadcast to air the Sean Parr re-election commercial here on the Girard at Large television show. I almost said the radio show. Wow. And that's only been off the air for 7 years? 8? Is it 8?
It's crazy how time flies.
It'll be 8 years I've been off the air since on November 17th. Anyway, so I guess I will go in reverse order. We will start with Melodye Smith, who's in Ward 2. Melodye, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you decided to run for the school board.
Okay. My name is Melodye Smith. I'm an active community member. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I'm a retired nurse. I decided to run.
So you're a retired nurse?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you might have something to say about lice, mice, and cockroaches, among other things?
I have some thoughts.
Okay. You decided to run because?
Yes, I decided to run because I see a lot of things in our school that we need to improve. We need to get back to basics. I've been saying this since day one. We need our kids to have a solid base of reading and writing and math and civics and critical thinking and social studies, because if they have a solid base, they will be able to build on that for their entire life. What they have now, it just reminds me of building a house on the sand. The storm has come and those kids are just like being blown out to sea. So we need to really straighten up our curriculum, and I'm here to work on that.
You mean if you expect kids to read, you need to teach them parts of speech, you need to teach them how sounds work, you need to teach them how to diagram sentences, and if you want
Absolutely.
them to do math, you need to teach them things like multiplication tables?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I need a banner. It says extremist alert.
That's me. Thank you.
Speaking of extremists, we have Cali Rojas, who has dared to speak before the Board of School Committee and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I must say, Cali, you are a rather eloquent speaker, and I find myself nodding often in agreement with what you're saying, and, you know, you go, girl.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Cali, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? I think you and I are both Blue Knights. Do I have that right?
No, I went to Central.
Oh, you went to Central. For some reason, all right, we like you anyway. So for some reason, I thought you graduated from West, but
no.
I guess I got that wire across. But why don't you take your turn at the microphone?
So my name is Cali Rojas. I'm running for the Board of School Committee in Ward 3. I decided to run because as you know, I've been getting involved in speaking up. I felt called to go to the school board meetings and see what was going on in the public schools. I was born and raised here in Manchester. I was in the public school system. And I have 9 nieces and nephews that also are in the public schools. Some moved now, but still I have a lot of friends that have kids in the schools. And so I started to go to the school board meetings and really learn what was happening in the schools, learn and continuously hear these horror stories about the parents and how they feel unheard, they feel ignored, they feel neglected, their children are suffering, they're being bullied, they're fearing retaliation. So I just really want to stand up and be a bold voice for the people that may not be able to go to the school board meetings, maybe the people that are busy and can't attend, or clearly we have a lack of communication and transparency. So that's something that I really want to stand up and represent as well. So yeah, I've just felt really called to get in the race, and yeah, God willing, we'll see what happens.
Terrific. Thank you for that. And Malinda, is it McCusker or McCusker?
McCusker.
McCusker. All right. So I got my L's in the wrong place. But
That's
Malinda
okay. That's
McCusker,
okay.
running for school board in Ward 8.
Right.
Of course, Callie's seat is open, the seat she's running for Ward 3.
Yep.
Ward 8 is open because that vote-getting juggernaut Jess Spillers has decided to take on Jay Rouet.
Yes.
So talk to us, Melinda. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you running?
So my name's Malinda McCusker, live in Ward 8, lifelong resident of Manchester, graduate of the Manchester School District from West High in
Okay.
1997 under Mr. Baines.
97. You got
97.
class of 87.
Okay.
The Knights I have in 87.
But, you know, like I said, lived in Manchester my whole life, try to keep up on current events, and, you know, the kids, we can talk about the proficiency ratings, right? My whole platform is based on we've got to get these kids reading. Less than 20% of kids in some of these grades are proficient in reading. And my reality is that if you cannot read, I'm not sure how you succeed in life. I also wonder from a teacher standpoint, how do you teach to a classroom when you have a 7th grade class and you've got kids reading at a 3rd grade level and kids reading at a 10th grade level? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, enrollment is going down. So when I graduated from high school, we had 2,000 kids at West High School. And yes, I understand that's when Bedford was coming. We're down to 752 now. Mm-hmm. Enrollment is declining. And this school budget is, you know, right now somewhere between $230 and $270 million this year. And that's, I can't even put words to it some days, Rich.
I'll give you the exact number. It's
Perfect.
$238.5 million appropriated by the city, and there's another $25 million of federal funds on top of that. So that gets you to 263, I believe the math is, 263.5.
It's a lot of money for less than
And
12,000 kids.
Horrifyingly, Jay Rouet has, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen under Jay Rouet has kicked that up by $11 million over the last 2 years with continued enrollment decline. And just to add a little flour on top of that, but right before Rouet came on, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen gave $35 million that fell from the sky from the state in a lump sum supplemental appropriation, which they used to give out pay raises and do that big boondoggle building project.
That's how we secured the bonds for the new school on Beach Street, right?
Well, not only that, but all 4 of the middle schools,
Yep.
which have declining enrollment, excess space, but somehow we're putting additions onto them.
Absolutely.
Yes, and they say, though, that they're going to make them real middle schools, and therefore education will improve. But as I pointed out in testimony before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen begging them not to approve the bonds, it's that, well, if that's true, then why is the only building we have in the city that's designed as a middle school the building with the worst test scores, statewide test scores, standardized test scores in the city? So what does that tell you about building design? That it's all a lie. Okay, with that, Mark, your moment of fame to sort of identify yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And why are you running? Asked the Big Mouth Frog. That's one of my favorite books
I'm
to
Mark
read.
Millet. I'm not a retired nurse. I'm a current nurse, emergency department, also paramedic. I've spent the better part of a little over 3 decades in emergency medicine. I have a master's degree in nurse education, and I'm actually an educator. I've been teaching adult education now for 30 years, CPR, advanced cardiac life support, that type of thing. Paramedic students I've taught on the university level. So I think I bring a unique perspective to this. I'm running, well, honestly, all the reasons you guys have said, for the exact same reasons. I don't want to repeat it. I've had children in the Manchester School District. They've done well, but there were problems back then. They've been out of the school system now for over a decade, but I also now have 3 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So it makes a lot of sense that we should make these positive changes now so that in a couple of years, when my grandchildren are in the school district, it's going to be ready for them. The truth of the matter is, I started paying attention, Rich. I really did. And the more I started paying attention to what was going on, I said, wow, we've got real problems here. And it's not just in the city of Manchester and the school district, but it's just a bigger picture where the school district itself is living in a bubble and they're not paying attention to the stuff that's going on outside. I could talk about all the academic issues that you've mentioned, and I agree with that 100%. All needs to be addressed. But let's start talking about budgets. Right now, the city of Manchester is, you mentioned it, $263 million. The city of Manchester has no money right now. We don't have it. We don't have the ability to raise taxes. We shouldn't raise taxes. Property taxes are going to go up. When property taxes go up, rents go up. We're in a position right now where we may be looking at layoffs across the board. The school district may be looking at layoffs with the budget that they've got to work with. Police department's in a contract year on top of that. Where are we going to get the money from? The school district seems to be under the impression that, hey, let's get a blank check. You will fill out the blank check, and if not, you hate children, you hate education. Well, that's totally untrue. That's the standard go-to, though. We need to rein it in, rein in the spending, look at every dollar we've spent, okay? Make sure it's appropriately spent, and I'm not against funding education at all. We need to fund education, but we need to do it appropriately. And there's been a lot of waste in the school district, and it's time for wholesale change on the school district. So I'm glad, when I thought about running, I'm thinking, I hope I'm not the only one. And then I met these lovely young ladies. I've met Phil Tuttle, met a bunch of the other candidates. Jason
Hodgson, who was on the show last week.
I'm ecstatic at the quality of candidates we have out there. So I'm hoping that we're going to have a big day on November 4th, and we can see some positive change on the school district.
Well, let's get into some of the hot button issues, because if you're following the Manchester School Board at all, what you've learned is that more money equals better results, despite the fact that they've gone from a budget of $191 million on July 1st, 2023 to a budget today of we'll call it 239, right? That doesn't count all of the federal funds that they've gotten over the intervening, including $88 million that came as extra federal funding over a 3-year period of time for COVID. So how do you, as newcomers, right? Let's be honest with people. You follow the school board, but you really don't know what you don't know, right? So if you don't know what you don't know, and you know you're going to get hit by all of these experts in education, I got a funny story about how to deal with that, by the way. What do? Where do you start?
I think you got to start looking at stuff at the state level. Like, I reached out to you last week or 2 weeks ago with some questions about some things, and you got to find those avenues, but you also got to cut out the
Well, let me ask you
people
this.
who think they have all the answers, but it just doesn't add up sometimes at the end of the day.
Okay, so let's stay with that
Okay.
doesn't add up thing. When something doesn't add up to you,
Yeah.
Malinda, what do you do when it doesn't add up to you?
You got to start digging and going back. One of my questions last week when we were on the show was the grants. So when we talk about the budget and we're talking about federal funds, state funds, right? I brought up the grants. Are those included in the money that we're talking about?
No. You're talking about, the Title I grants are in that 260, but all of the other big grants that they run around and pound their chest about that they get, no, it doesn't count that.
So that's more money that we're getting.
Yeah.
And then they want to talk about numbers, but I'm like, you're not including all the numbers. This isn't the truth at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, and so there's easily another $20 million or so in grants that aren't being counted. When I was chairman of the Finance Committee in my first term back in 2016, I brought in Granite United Way and a bunch of others, and I said, all right, it was $3 million. $3 million that outside organizations were putting into the school district. And so if you were to ever sit down and tabulate the amount of money that's being spent on all of these different avenues, you'd have to come to the conclusion at some point that money is not the problem. So if money is not the problem, how do you get, and I'm looking for something very specific here, when it's not adding up, when you know that what they're telling you is wrong, you're close when you say you got to dig in, but how do you dig in?
I think you have to ask questions. You have to ask questions. And they don't want us to ask questions. They don't want questions. They don't want light shine on their darkness.
So
Shut them down.
and how do they prevent questions from being asked? It's probably not fair for me to ask you these questions.
Alderman meetings, no.
Okay, one of the things I used to do when I was on the school board was I would listen to whatever expert was in front of me. I love these. I have a doctorate degree. I have a master's degree. Okay, I have a common sense degree. And I would literally say in my out loud voice, okay, can you now speak in plain English without the edu-speak and jargon?
Perfect.
And they used to hate me like with a white hot passion for saying that, because I was never afraid to look stupid by asking a question.
Right.
Never have been, never was. Maybe it's just my makeup or whatnot, but I learned pretty quickly
Exactly.
that if you don't know what's going on, you have no way of knowing what they're actually doing. And there's really, at the end of the day, only one question. Only one way to do it, and that is to ask the questions.
Exactly.
So, that in mind, what questions, I know some of you have already shared some of the things that you would like to question, but what questions come to your mind? What isn't adding up in your brain about the Manchester School District? Mark?
Honestly, the first thing, let's just get back to the finances. I don't love the fact that they have all this control over what the budget is, and we don't know. So the questions we have to ask is, where is every dollar going? And I would actually, I'm going to be calling for an independent audit of the school district. Let's go through every dollar here. Let's find every single position that's critical, what's not critical, areas we can look to streamline operations.
Well, I will tell you toward the end, and you'll probably still find the document. I actually might have it. But toward the end of his tenure, Superintendent Tom Brennan, for those of you who've been around for a while, ordered what was called a curriculum audit, which not only touched on the finances, but it touched programmatically and structurally on what the district was doing and how it was operating. Point I'm trying to make is they already know.
Right.
But they don't want it to be seen.
It's the fox guarding the hen house is what it really comes down to. And that's why an independent audit is so important, that we actually have a third party that can go in there, look at this, explain to everybody, ourselves, the board of mayor and aldermen, and the taxpayers, exactly where this money's going. And let's find out what areas we can cut. Do we need $273 million? I don't know. I truly don't know. It seems like an outrageously high amount of money.
Well, I know one thing. They carried over 43 positions from their COVID funding.
Yeah.
And somehow in their desperate poverty were able to work them into the operating budget that is now supported by the taxpayer. And I don't remember how many of those 43 positions were actually classroom teachers, but they certainly all weren't. Melodye, you had some questions that were on the tip of your tongue, I think.
Yes. One of the biggest things is our proficiency rates are abysmal.
Yes, they are.
And we have to look at our curriculum. You know, back in the olden days, we used to teach. I don't know if you remember back this far, but we used to teach phonics.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember.
It was a wonderful program.
It was.
And it gave kids a really good base. You know, and they learned how to read. Why did we do away with something like that? I don't understand. The things that we have in school now that we don't need, these, forgive me, these woke ideology things that are going on.
Oh, you mean like DEI
We don't need that.
Yeah.
We need our kids to have
Wait a minute.
the basics.
You don't want the wheel of power and privilege?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
That doesn't exist,
Well,
Rich.
wait.
That doesn't exist.
Well, you can't speak.
No.
You are an oppressor. I can't even speak. I'm an oppressor. Although, I've done some genealogy. Turns out I've got some Hispanic blood in me, so maybe I'm not such an oppressor.
I mean, apparently, since May, it's still under investigation.
Well,
That's
Yes.
what I heard.
Yes.
Still.
Well, I actually was going to do some breaking news on that tonight, so I'll do it here.
All right.
I have it.
excited.
I have it on good authority that they are actually still investigating it, and they are actually spending your tax dollars on
Oh, fabulous.
on a private investigator to determine how the wheel of power and privilege got into that 8th grade classroom at McLaughlin Middle School, because finding out, knowing the teacher is not enough, Knowing the professional development she got it from is not enough. Knowing who in the school district approved it is not enough. We now have to spend your tax dollars on this charade, and my guess is we're not going to see that investigation until, anyone care to guess?
After the election.
After the election. There
we
you
go.
go.
That was one of my questions, though, and that's what I even had brought to the school board, is that I said, okay, because they tried to say, that's a lie, taxpayer money isn't going towards professional development, which I found out a portion of it is.
Of course
and,
it is.
Yeah, and then they
As someone who negotiated contracts, I can tell you professional development is in the contracts.
So including
We have to
where's
pay
all
for
this
it.
money going? Why are we paying teachers professional development that is not to be implemented in the classroom to better the children's education? It makes no sense to me.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, well, it was never meant to be used in the classroom.
Yeah,
What's the
so
point
what
of
was the
teaching
point?
it to the teachers?
What was the point
Right.
of having the kids out of school that day and
Exactly.
funding all the teachers to learn nothing?
So, what are your thoughts? And the boards that I was on, we successfully sidelined these things. But now we have a situation in the Manchester schools where the schools are actually helping to socially transition kids from one gender to the other.
They don't.
Because they have a policy of absolute affirm whatever 7-year-old Johnny or Susie comes in and tells them they are. The policy forbids them from telling parents.
Yep.
And the policy requires them to lie to parents if they ask, and the child, who can be in kindergarten, if the child does not give permission to tell mommy or daddy that the child is pretending to be the opposite sex. It mystified me 2 years ago, and it mystifies me now how little I've seen from school board candidates about that. So I'm going to throw you all into the hot end of the boiling oil and say, the deep end of the boiling oil, and say, is this a policy that if you're elected, you're looking to get rid of?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
That will
100%.
probably be the first policy that I would like to see go. I do not think it's right whatsoever. I'll bring it back to the fact that we can't vote till we're 18. Can't legally buy alcohol till we're 21. Not saying that didn't happen.
Can't get a
beforehand,
tattoo.
right? I can't get a tattoo. Can't buy a handgun. So I have a really hard time understanding that I can't do these things. My son couldn't enter the military. Not that he is, but I'm just saying, until he's 18 or without my permission.
Yeah.
Beforehand. But we seem to think that a child under those ages can tell me that, or anybody, that I want to be a girl and I want to use the girls' bathroom. I don't think that's okay. The other thing that really comes to my mind with that is that when we're dealing with children, there could be some bullying that could go on, right? Because one child may not understand why this child is, voicing that that's their thought process. So if we're allowing them to also use other bathrooms, how does the bathroom, we don't have monitors, we don't have, video cameras. So how are you monitoring that bullying as well, right? So that brings in a whole other aspect to that policy. It should absolutely be gone.
Anybody else want to chime in on this?
I think what I've noticed is the school district has a lot of policies, okay? And their policies are all framed gray, right?
Yes.
So it's all about interpretation. And I think that we need to tread lightly on the situation since there's already lawsuits. There already was a loss of a student, which is so tragic, and I just can't even. And I also believe parental rights are non-negotiable. So parents need to directly be involved with what's happening with their children. Now we went to the school board meeting and they want to implement all of these clinical mental health counselors into the schools.
Yeah.
Okay, one, who's funding that? Why are we creating these positions? And then they said that now the guidance counselors are no longer qualified for that, so we need to bring in more. So
Right.
that's another area where I'm like, I just don't, it's the critical thinking and common sense I feel like is out the door, and it's really unfortunate to see.
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The thing is, if your child gets labeled, from these mental health counselors, that actually equals more money. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and I've
Sorry,
I've
but it
actually
does.
said in my out loud voice on occasion that the state needs to look at its funding formula, because what it does is it rewards underperformance. You get more money for every kid who's not on grade level
Right.
by the third grade. So if you're a starving school district, you have every incentive. I'm not saying that they're intentionally trying to keep kids underperforming in any academics. I think the problems we have are quite genuinely because the district is not using good materials, is not using good methods, and well, what the hell? When your professional development is all about the wheel of power and privilege, why would you expect kids to be able to read?
I want to add something to this real quickly, because when you have this whole issue, when the school is actively pushing against parental rights and the ability to find out what's going on with your children, parents are now going, I want my kids out of the Manchester School District. And now you're starting to see them going off to charter schools and being homeschooled. And the schools are wondering, the people are supporting public schools, and I do support public schools, but they're actively wondering, why are parents pulling their kids out? They don't want to look in the mirror and go, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's not you, it's me. It's us. This is our problem here. Yeah. We're not including the parents in their kids' education. We're hiding things from them. I pull my kids out too. And I don't want to be in a situation where I want to look at my grandchildren when they're going to school and say, I don't want them going to the Manchester schools. I want my kids to be able to go to the Manchester schools and get a great education the way my children did.
Well, that's what Jason Hodgson said when he was here last week, and that is his wife and he don't have kids yet, but he wants the schools to be places that he'd want to send them by the time they have them.
And Jason's not a minority out here. There's a lot of parents that are just want to pull their kids out. They are desperate to pull their kids out. The state's offered some assistance to be able to do that.
EFAs.
The EFAs. Why isn't the school district looking at this problem saying, wait a minute, why are people not coming to our schools? Why do they want to go elsewhere? If I had a bad restaurant and my customers were going elsewhere all the time and I was losing customers, I'd be looking in the mirror going, what the heck is going on? What am I doing wrong? And that's what we need to get back to, is look at the school district, say, where are we falling short here? Yeah. And if you're not pulling the parents in, if the parents are not expected to be involved in their kids' education and their personal growth, and you're hiding things from them, heck yeah, I would want to pull my kids out. And that's the thing that I think the current school administration and the school committee, they're not seeing that. They're not doing that self-reflection.
No, because they're ideologues, and they like to tell themselves that they're data-driven. And not to keep going back, but when I was on the school board, I was on the curriculum and instruction committee, and test scores would come in and they'd tell us how they were data driven, and I got into a real sort of back and forth with one of our reading specialists who had a master's degree and had been doing this for 14 years. And I finally said, well, what have you recommended in 14 years that I should continue to listen to you? Because if we're a data-driven district, we can see that every year from kindergarten through 5th grade, which were the scores we were looking at, we saw nothing other than precipitous falls in reading proficiency. So the data is telling me what we're doing is headed fast in the wrong direction. What's our correction? Right. Oh, it's more money to do more of the same.
Well, that was my one point too that I had brought up, was that if the enrollment is going down and the funding is going up, why are the proficiencies still declining? Because 10 years ago, when there was more students, less funding, the proficiencies were actually higher.
Yes.
So that's another great question.
Yes,
and
they were.
I'm not sure.
And to put a fine point on that, we've lost almost 2,200 kids in the last 10 school years, including this one. And that's about a 28% drop in the population of the Manchester School District. So, but let's jump on to another. Where's that money coming from? It's all grant funded for these health clinics. And what the schools are really doing, and people need to understand this, and it ties right back to their disdain for parental rights. They are slowly but surely, and they're using poverty, and they're using race, and they're using ethnicity, they're using immigrants and refugees as the basis for this, because those people are just too poor and too incapable to, we might even have to lead them on to the bathroom because they're too stupid to figure out how to do that too. But they're not in loco parentis, they're working to become the parent. They're looking to become 100%. The parent. So you've probably learned now. Okay, so Mark, I have an answer to your question, and that is, hey, the 1950s called and they want their school system back. Yes. Yep. And that's what we're doing. So what you're seeing in the school district is a tightening and a centralization of authority and control in the district office. They started this years ago. I used to call it the sameness police. Everybody's got to be the same. I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are on whether or not there should be school choice within the Manchester School District. You might live, I went to Gosler Park School, but maybe Smith Road had. So if you have the ability for parents to choose, then it seems to me that don't you have to give the staff at the building level the opportunity to sort of play to their strengths and, you know, come up with the things that they think parents would be willing to send their kids to, or they know there's this need and they can meet it. And is it about time we start looking at school choice here in the Manchester School District, or should we just let the school district think it's innovative because it picked a school that was going to have a dual language enrollment program, et cetera, et cetera? And by the way, who decided that they were going to be in Spanish and French? Who decided that they were going to be at Beach Street and Webster? Who decided why aren't they in Arabic or some other, you know, language of which we have many students? What is the creative, innovative process that led to the district deciding what was going to happen? Anybody want to jump in on that? School choice?
School choice, listen, it's not like we don't have the space, right? Let's be honest here. We're not. If we were bulging at the seams, that would be one thing. But listen, we've got open seats in classrooms, right? If we've got the open seats, I don't see a reason why we can't offer those parents the opportunity. If it's a better learning environment, because here's the thing, as a future member of the school board, I'd rather keep the kid in the Manchester School District and you let them go to a different school rather than lose them completely to a charter school.
Well, I mean, to your point, right? So if you know you're bleeding kids hand over fist through EFAs and homeschooling and all the alternatives that are out there now, why wouldn't you want your staff, if they're as good as you claim they are, to innovate and come up with programs and approaches that will have parents saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll bring my kid to Weston Elementary because they've got this great robotics thing going on. I don't know.
We got to think outside the box. What we're doing right now is not working well.
No.
Our proficiencies are low, as we mentioned. We've got problems in the district. If your customers aren't happy, give your customers what will make them happy. And school choice has been proven to make people happy. And if you can do it within your own school district, why send your customers elsewhere? And you don't want to use the word customers, but really that's what they are. We're tax-paying customers. So
Yeah, we are, actually. Well, it brings up another question. Who do you represent on the school board? What's your job as a school board member? Who do you represent?
representing the
Students,
parents
the
and the
families, the
students.
taxpayers.
Your ward.
Oh, you mean you're not supposed to be there to represent the school district?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. So transportation has been kind of a pain in the neck. And somebody said something about class sizes,
Yep.
empty space. Right, okay. So the school board came up with a policy and it said from K to 3, no class more than 20 kids.
Correct.
4, 5, and 6, I think it's 25, and then high
Yep.
school is what high school is. So in order to conform to their policy, now it's kind of funny. Not all that long ago, I saw on the History Channel through Manchester Public TV, a public hearing that I was at back in the 90s when the parent-teacher group president at Green Acres School talked about the 750 kids that were in that building. They've got under 400 now, and they're, quote, overcrowded. No joke. How does that happen? I can tell you how it happens, but we don't have that much time. So with the school board, now we all know, right, that the school transportation right now is an utter and total mess.
Absolutely.
They took it over. They didn't know what they were doing. They don't have enough buses. They have even fewer drivers. Kids are literally waiting for hours at school or in the. But what they're doing, and I got this information, not that the school board made it easy to get. So there are 131 elementary school kids who are going to a school other than the one in their attendance district,
Correct.
which means the school board, the school district, is busing those kids.
Correct.
And so I sent an email off to Jen Camille, whatever it is. I'll call her Gillis because that's how I know her, the superintendent. And I said, what's this costing you? Oh, nothing. It's all our fixed route transportation. And I sent back a note. I said, really? You mean to tell me that kids going from one side of town to the other are somehow not causing you to have extra runs or whatnot? Can you explain that to me? Crickets chirping. So, but this is how crazy this is, right? So just looking at Parker Varney, right? So Parker Varney has got 13 kids from other schools at Parker Varney. Webster has a student from Parker Varney. Goslar has 4 students from Parker Varney, and Bakersville has a student from Parker Varney.
So the reality would be
But
that
so we've got 13 kids at Parker Varney from other schools, and then we've got multiple kids from Parker Varney. And I could go through this. This is the grid that they handed out to everybody. It makes it kind of impossible, right? And McDonough Elementary, no incoming kids, but 29 of their kids are at Beach Street School? How's that happen? I thought Beach Street was bursting at the seams. We need to build a new building. Here's the funny thing. You know how many classrooms there are at McDonough Elementary? The way they're counting them. Not the way I would count them, but the way they're counting them. 21. So you essentially have one kid per classroom to keep McDonough under its, at or under its 20, and now you're throwing all... Comments, candidates, Malinda?
So they talked about that at the last meeting, and the part that I found interesting is that, the transportation this year is an extreme hot mess. It's a blaze. It's an
It was
inferno.
last year too, but
But can I just tell you a really funny fact about that? So us school board candidates sitting here got this really nice fact sheet shortly after we signed up to run for school board.
That reminds me. Leslie Want sent that out, and I actually have got a rebuttal that I've.
And we're supposed to be saving millions of dollars by bringing transportation in-house.
Well, last year they budgeted $10 million to bring it in-house, and they spent
Yeah.
14.
And
And they blamed
understanding
special
is-
ed, of course.
But we're also over budget on that last year too, right?
Yeah, by $4 million.
And are we not missing the head of transportation?
Well, yeah, we're missing a lot of things in
Yeah.
transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
That's
needed
an interesting
4 assistant
fact.
superintendents to take that spot.
But my question about the classroom sizes is, are we following those kids year after year? Like Johnny goes to Bakersville this year because Green Acres is, at class quote. Well, what happens next year? Or do we leave Johnny at Bakersville to finish out through the 4th grade now that we move 5th grade into the middle schools? Like, when do we,
these are-
reconfigure classrooms or maybe bring the classroom sizes up a little bit?
Yeah. Well, these are the tough questions, right? But look, Smith Road School. They've got their 4th grade classes average 16 kids a class. However, they've got students. They've got 8 students from Smith Road over at Green Acres. But they've got 10 students at Smith Road from Beach, McDonough, Webster, Weston, and Highland Goss Falls. Don't tell me you're not making extra bus runs to get a kid who lives in the Highland Goss Falls district up all the way the other end of town
You are.
to Smith Road School. So
And they also dropped the ball too because my niece goes to charter, and people forget that the charter is still with the schools as well. So it's like,
well, the charters and the parochials,
Yeah.
because the city is obligated to provide them that transportation.
yeah.
At least the
Memorial, I
charters.
think there were kids waiting outside until like 6 o'clock or coming home at like 6:30 at night on a school night. And I'm
That's
like,
because we were busy at the State of the Union of Education. That happened to be on that same day.
Well, here's the truth. They thought that they were going to get more. They thought they were going to get. They were going to do a better job than the bus companies who do it professionally for a living. They have 46 drivers for 53 buses outside of the special education, which they still sub out. 46 drivers for 50.
We're short 7.
Yeah.
Also, do we know how much the bus drivers are making? Because they just made a huge stink that since we're lacking so many crossing guards as well, now they had to bump them up to $20 an hour. So how much are the bus drivers getting paid?
Well, according to Jim O'Connell, the ever wise Jim O'Connell, they gave the bus drivers from MTA a huge pay raise to come over, and now they're all bent out of shape because the contract that they agreed to doesn't let them move drivers around, so that if a driver's out, they can't actually fill the spot.
Correct.
And they're damn indignant about it. Well, maybe they should have taken care of that beforehand. But this is a group that tends to read its documents after the problem shows up.
Right.
So are you going to, now it might make you go blind or crazy or both, but are you going to read your agendas
Yeah.
Yes.
before the meeting?
Yes.
As long as I get it
Absolutely.
before the meeting.
Yeah, valid.
You should get it the Thursday before.
Perfect.
All right, well, listen, I'm going to give everybody a chance to say whatever it is they've wanted to say this whole time, but they couldn't because I was a bit rambunctious in my questioning and my sharing, and give you an opportunity to say goodbye, do whatever it is, tell them where your websites, Facebook pages are, et cetera, et cetera. I think, Melody, did we start with you?
We started with Mark.
Well, then we'll start with you,
Okay.
unless you need time to think.
You're on the hot seat.
I know. So I am going to ask for your vote on November 4th. Our school board, unfortunately, they're not meeting the needs of the kids of the city, and I think unfortunately that's pretty obvious. We need some new ideas. We need some buddy people, a group, to just say this isn't working, we need to change things. And as you can see, there are some people sitting right here that are very passionate and are willing to take these things on, and I'm certainly one of them. We need to get back to basics. I've been saying that forever, ever, and always, and I will continue to say that until our kids know how to read, know how to do their math without their cell phones and without, anything else that they're using, their Chromebooks or whatever else they're using. They should have this knowledge in their heads. And we have the capability of teaching them. We need to make changes. We need to be fiscally responsible in this city. Oh, there's just so much to say and so little time. But I'm asking for your vote. Give us a chance. Thank you.
Melodye Smith, Ward 2, thank you for joining us here in Girard at Large. Do you have a Facebook page or a
I do.
website?
Yes, it's just under Melodye Smith, my Facebook page. You can get me on melody725 at Gmail. You can call me at 603-703-7032. Easiest phone number ever. Just call me, talk to me. I've been trying to talk with parents, taxpayers, and I'm talking to the kids, and they're sharing a lot of things too, which is incredibly eye-opening. So get in touch, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Melodye. Cali Rojas, candidate for School Board Ward 3, your closing thoughts.
Yes, I am asking for your vote on November 4th. I don't know it all. I am being transparent. I don't have the experience, but I do have the passion. As a Christian conservative, I stand on the truth, on values, on morals. I want to do right by the parents, by this community, by the children. I want to set them up for success. I want to have open lines of communication. I want to have transparency, parental rights. I want to see the improvements that I'm sure all of us want to see and that the kids in Manchester deserve. So I'm asking for your vote for that. I know that they continuously keep telling us we're in a financial crisis. I believe we're in a spending crisis. I would like to bring fiscal responsibility. Like Mark said, let's bring an audit. Let's figure out what's going on here, right? Let's shine a light on this, what seems to be darkness for the past couple of years here in the school district. So I'm all about making a positive change. The future generation depends on it. So I'm here to serve you in Ward 3, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, and you can find me on Facebook, Cali Rojas for Ward 3 School Board.
Malinda McCusker.
Malinda McCusker, I'm asking for your vote November 4th. Ward 8, we vote at Memorial. I'm coming to the board as a concerned parent to get these kids back to reading the basics. I know we keep talking about it, but they are our future, and that is the foundation of their education. The budget, it really needs to go through that with a fine-tooth comb, see all the money, where it's coming in, where it's going out. And you can reach me. I love to talk. If we've not already connected, that's what I do for a living. If we've not already connected through door knocking, if I've not met your kids on the street, please feel free to call me, 603-820-6657, Malinda McCusker at Yahoo, and you can find me at Malinda McCusker for School Board. Thank you.
Melinda, thank you.
All right.
Mark, close us out.
Rich, thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
For starters, let me throw this out. One thing we didn't mention is the $2.5 billion school expansion.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that.
Yes.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's critically important right now. I firmly believe this is the most important local election that Manchester has seen in decades. Not just for school board, but board of mayor and aldermen. I noticed that 3 soon-to-be former school board members are running for major positions.
Right.
Jess Spillers, Jason Bonilla, Maxine Mosley. They're looking to get control of the board, and if they do that, it's going to be unfettered spending, and it's a blank check for the school board. So it's critically important. I really want to make sure everybody gets out there and votes. Vote for these young ladies. Please vote for myself. Some candidates on the board of mayor and aldermen. You know who they are. Let's make sure that those people get in. Okay. So that being said, Mark Millet on Facebook. Mark Millet for Ward 5 School Board. MarkMillet@h.com is my contact info. My cell phone. Call or text 603-235-8647. And again, I appreciate anybody's vote. We're at the Beach Street School for Ward 5.
Mark, thanks for being with us here on Girard at Large. My thanks to all of you, not for only for being here, but for taking the leap into elected politics. I'll only close out by saying when I started in this business some 34 years ago, I was a strapping 6 foot 6'3", 225 with a full head of hair. They might wear me down, but they'll never beat me. All right, we'll be back, folks. We're going to give these folks a minute or two to recover, and we'll be back. We got 10 minutes left. I want to thank those folks for running and for being here. Melodye Smith, Ward 2, Cali Rojas, Ward 3, Malinda McCusker, Ward 8, and Mark Millet, Ward 5. I went a little bit out of order there, but ladies first, as they say. All right, so I told you during last week's show I was getting feedback from people who were at the big old thingamajiggy up there in Ward 1 where the city's looking to rezone the old YDC, the Sununu Center property, as mixed use. Well, that pretty much set that whole neighborhood on fire, and they heard about it in spades up in Ward 1. And Bryce Kawu, little Bryce Kawu, came to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and urged people to be calm and rational, because in his core of cores, Bryce Kawu wants it not only to be residential, but he wants it to be mixed use. And as I've been telling you, he's a radical leftist, and, well, I've got some proof of that today. So while he completely ignored what his neighbors up there were saying about just not wanting it, what did he do? He went to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen during his 3-minute public participation and urged the city to come up with the funds to buy it itself so they could set up stakeholder groups and everybody could talk and come to understand and see what wonderful uses, including small starter homes and multifamilies and all the stuff that they said they didn't want up there, to do it. So imagine my not surprise when looking at today's newspaper. B, maybe you can zoom in on this. Here, I'm going to circle it. Can you zoom in on this? Who's that? That's Bryce Kawu, who is also the planning board chairman in Manchester. And as I've told you, he really should step down from that position while running at the very least. And what he was there at this organization, at this thing. I hate when I do this to myself. Bringing the newspaper is not always a good idea. Oh, wait a minute. This is on the backside, right? Yes. So you've got these radical left-wing organizations, including the Granite State Organizing Project, Our Future, Our Economy, Our Future, and 603 Forward, who are radical, woke, left-wing groups, holding a forum on what the legislature needs to do in order to force affordable housing in the way it sees fit over the city of Manchester and the rest of the state of New Hampshire. And where's Bryce Kawu but sitting front and center? He even had a quote. Bryce Kawu, chairman of the Manchester Planning Board, said the city has several affordable housable plans that may be unable to get off the ground without support. We need state funding, more money. Love the more money. And we just aren't seeing as much of it as we need to. Now, I got a lot to cover tonight, but I'll tell you what. If you think, when I was running for the state senate in 2022, there literally was a bill pending before the legislature that would have taken 1/3 of all of the developable land in the state of New Hampshire immediately, literally, totally, and forever off the boards for development. It was a radical bill pushed by the very same woke warriors on the left that now come and tell you how important it is that we have affordable housing. And, Bryce was talking about, well, we need... Here, it's really simple. It doesn't matter whether or not the city of Manchester... Oh, he even wanted to impose what's called a TIF district, a tax increment financing district, as a way of developing the infrastructure over there. What's that? It's a way for the city to come and levy an extra tax on that neighborhood to pay for all of the infrastructure that would need to be created so Bryce can have his little multi-family, mixed-use neighborhood up there on 100 and some odd different acres of land up there off of River Road. And anybody who's been on River Road knows that while that property is developable up there, you just aren't going to turn it into something like what you have off of Eddie Roy Drive, which is really what they're looking to do, because it can't sustain it without enormous and very expensive infrastructure. But that's what Bryce Kawu is all about. So if you folks up there in Ward 1, particularly along River Road and the neighborhoods off of it, think that Bryce Kawu is listening to you, yeah, he is, only as long as it takes to get your vote and then turn around and do what he was going to do anyway. And that's forced this thing down everybody's throats. And so if you want to regulate what's going to happen up there, it's really simple. Make sure your zoning is appropriate to what you want. Then it doesn't matter whether or not the city owns it. It doesn't matter who owns it, because they're only going to be able to develop it in the manner that the city allows via the zoning. It's really simple and straightforward, folks, and that's the way it's got to go. Picklegate. So we got a Picklegate update and panhandling. I have to tell you, it was pretty not awesome watching the Public Safety Committee before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen this past Tuesday. So while we've got the Deputy Health Director telling the board that they really should retain these controls over picklers and other people who, share whatever they cook with family and friends and neighbors around the city. Because, the state in its infinite wisdom recognized that if you pickle in Manchester, you must be some unconditionally way more likely to poison your neighbor, your family member, or whoever else than if you pickle in Dunbarton. Remember that stuff I brought last week? Yeah, that came from somebody's kitchen in Dunbarton, New Hampshire, sold to me at a farm in Londonderry. It even had the sticker. Remember, it said, not regulated by the state of New Hampshire. Shock, I'll eat it anyway. But in Manchester, because we're a city, apparently pickling and jamming and all that fun stuff, yeah, there's a risk. Now, granted, it's a small risk of botulism, says the Deputy Health Director. So I did some research. Do you know how many cases there have been in botulism there have been in the state of New Hampshire, going all the way back to when records were kept, starting in 1899? Do you? Anybody care to guess? 0. There has never been a reported case of botulism in the state of New Hampshire. Now, I'm thinking it's because Manchester, since 1839 or whatever it is, has had its illustrious health department making sure that we are not pickling what comes out of our gardens and sharing it with our family and friends. Botulism. So you might be wondering, is botulism a problem across the country? Well, it depends. According to my research, there have been, on average, somewhere between 175 to 200 cases a year of botulism of varying degrees and stripes, because there isn't just one kind of botulism, but there are several. And I don't know, maybe, 175 to 200 cases a year in a country with 330 million people is something you really need to worry about. I'm glad they're on. It's too bad that I don't know. They didn't really have a problem, now that I think about it, with the norovirus that killed somebody who ate at the Puritan back room and sickened 18 others. We didn't even find out about that one until 5 or 6 weeks later. Yeah. So that was, and they were supposed to have a draft ordinance, but no. They're just going to talk now, and then they're going to bring it back to the board, whatever the health department decides. And so there's that. Then there was the whole foolishness over panhandling. Okay, yeah, I want to thank Troy Micklon, who will be with us next week, because he keeps plugging away. The city solicitor in the city of Manchester, when I worked for the mayor, I used to call it the House of No. And watching this whole thing with panhandling, now the court, when it issued its opinion striking down our ordinance back in 2018, told the city exactly what to do to fix it. And in my never-to-be humble opinion as your ever humble host, Troy Micklon drafted not one but 2 ordinances, the second one after the city solicitor's office took the unusual step of issuing a public opinion about why it would violate the court order so that if the Board of Mayor and Aldermen decided to vote for it, then all the ACLU would have to do is say, hey, even their own lawyer said they shouldn't do it. How's that for a slam dunk case? But listening to these fools, it made me wonder, why wasn't that case appealed if it was the way it was written? Now, I read it a little differently. Granted, I'm not a lawyer, but I tend to take the English language at face value. That's the writer and the editor in me. But so they went through this, but don't you worry. So so the House of No, someone finally got the idea. They said, well, you know, maybe we, the city solicitor's office, instead of, this happened with the sex shop ordinance when sex shops started to open downtown. I'd do research, I'd send it to the city solicitor's office, and they say, no, you can't do this. Well, after 6 or 8 times of that, I finally got sick of it. I said, you know, why don't you come up with something I can do instead of making me run around like somebody who, has nothing better to do, only for you to turn around and say no. And son of a gun, when that happened, we actually got an ordinance. And so the solicitor is going to see if she can come up with something creative, working with the Public Works Director to take care of that. There are a couple other things. The skateboard park. Why is it that we have to spend $2.5 million on a skateboard park when our roads are falling apart? But here's the real question. Why wasn't it brought up during the budget process? Why is it coming up now, right before an election? Could it be because that Rivera fellow is breathing down Bill Berry's back in Ward 10 and he's looking for something to renovate a park that's a problem for him now? $2.5 million. Why wasn't it part of the budget, folks? Just remember, all this spending, it's outside of the budget. I am out of time, but still your ever humble host, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. Until next week, be good, be well. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. We're proud to have in the audience. Thanks so much for being there. Tune in next week. Another big show, more candidates, and, well, hopefully we'll have an update on mice, lice, and cockroaches at Hillside, Beach Street, and elsewhere. Good night.